Gwen.
Yeah.
Say 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, testing.
Perfect.
It got taken up sort of by the vehicles.
Rafting for the first time and getting to do that on the Klamath with an amazing boat. And not dying. So thanks so much for having me. I usually a little nervous, but I'm a senior wetland ecologist with RES, Resource Environmental Solutions. I've been working for RES for about 3 years. I grew up in the same concrete watershed that Christina mentioned last night, so the LA River, which is it's flood control. It's concrete, and I never thought much of it. Didn't even dawn on me that it was a natural river until I think I was at least in my mid-20s. But I got really connected to the ocean and then moved up to San Francisco, became a bay ecologist, doing research on eelgrass restoration and wetlands. And I worked in consulting my entire career. Left a consulting firm, went to National Marine Fisheries Service as a contractor for a couple of years, doing regulatory Section 7, and also managing my graduate advisor doing eelgrass restoration in the bay. And then my contract went up. And I reconnected with an old boss, and he had left the company we worked at, and he moved to RES, and he's like, hey, I got this project. Do you want to come work on it with me? And I was like, I think so. I think this sounds really exciting. So that's how I kind of, in the last 5 years, found myself in rivers. So RES is the restoration contractor, and that means that once Kiewit, who's the dam removal contractor, civil engineer, once they leave the area, we're there to put the habitat back. We have a very robust native seed program that's been going on. It was started in 2018. I picked it up in 2019 with the help of the Yurok tribe and Josh Chenoweth leading that field effort on the ground out of Ashland. And we have, to date, we have propagated 11 billion seeds out of these efforts. We have, so I'll just start there, or kind of pause there for a minute and go back to some of the restoration elements. So we're responsible for geomorphology, revegetation, invasive species, invasive plant species, and then fisheries. So the primary goal of the project is volitional fish passage and a free-flowing river. So we need to make sure that there's once those reservoirs, once all the water is gone, we need to make sure that there is no residual anthropogenic debris as opposed to a natural fish barrier that remains there. We're anticipating the channels, based on modeling and historic information, we're anticipating that the channel will take its original alignment because it's a very canyonized system already. And then there will be some of the reservoir footprints that will turn into floodplain. And then some of the areas that were previously underwater will turn into uplands. And that's where kind of the plants come in. The plants come in to help with erosion control, and also providing native habitat. And let's see, we're doing that. We're putting them back in the landscape by creating these communities. We're planting back communities. We call them facilitation patches. It's basically this idea that if you plant oak trees, followed by herbaceous forbs and grasses, and then put a good seed mix out there, that the community can draw on resources and kind of bounce back together, and then it becomes resistant to invasive plants, and it just becomes more successful overall. Another point I want to mention is that this project is full of collaborators, which really, I love that. I've gotten to work with so many amazing professionals, tribes. Stantec is they'll be stamping the maps. They're a restoration engineer. We're working with the Yurok tribe and native seed collection. They've also done modeling of the velocities of the river and different flow rates along the way. And then we're working with the Karuk tribe on water quality monitoring. We're also working with the Klamath tribe on water quality. So we're really trying to tap the watershed for its resources in native plants, in expertise, and just kind of, involve the community. Josh has made some amazing connections in the kind of upper basin in the Rogue Valley, looking at drawing on, connecting with the Rogue Native Plant Partnership, who works with local farmers. And sometimes people will have a specialized species that they grow out on their farm or something like that. So we're really trying to just tap all the resources, make this a community effort, put jobs and money back in the basin, and make people connected to the river and what we're doing. Let's see. So Tom talked about timelines a bit. Let's see. So yeah, if all goes well, and best case scenario, construction starts in 2024. Our restoration period for actually restoration construction is 2024 to 2025. And then we're gonna start planning immediately, take our restoration designs from 60% to 90% in the first year after drawdown, during the drawdown year. And then we've got 5 years of monitoring planned. Another big component, the last piece, is that RES came to the table with this performance guarantee. So that means that if we don't meet success criteria after those 5 years, RES is on the hook. RES is there. If there's a fire that comes through and wipes out the plants, RES is there to replace those plants and work towards the success criteria. So it was really this unique feature. We're an operations company. We have construction level bonding, and that was kind of this unique factor and how we got to the table. We had some very creative solutions and people that, bigger brains than I have, that thought through all the legalities of that and were able to bring that. And it's just really spectacular. So I think that takes us through 2031 on the project and in the landscape. And we've got a series of monitoring metrics that we have to meet based on, a lot of it's based on the Water Board, the water quality certifications through Section 401. And then there's the biological opinion terms and conditions as well. I guess I'll open it up to questions. I can't, my train of thought, just.
So two-part question. One,
Sure.
with the billion plant, was that the number?
Billion seeds,
Billion seeds, germinated,
propagated.
propagated. Thank you. What are the species? What's the target geographic areas for restoration in the project area? What is considered to be the restoration project area? I think I asked 3 questions.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for asking those. So we are going to be doing most of our work in the priority tributaries of each reservoir. So at Iron Gate, there's the Camp and Scotch Creek complex, and then Jenny Creek, and then at Copco, there's Beaver Creek, and at J.C. Boyle, there's Spencer Creek. So those are the areas that we expect the river to take the original channel alignment. And then in those tributaries, we need to make sure that the connection happens. There's important wetlands that are up there, especially at Spencer Creek. And then, so that's gonna be where the any earth moving happens. We're collecting species that include oak trees, a lot of the plum species, what else? Oregon grape. And then we've got from the herbaceous level, we have several native grasses. We've got yarrow, poppies, lomations, Blazing Star, which is always a favorite. And then we selected these species that most of them do well in propagation. They're abundant in the landscape, they're native. And then some of the specialized other specialized species that we're buying seed from will go into a broadcast mix. Did I answer all your questions? Okay. And then we'll target restoration at those tributaries that I mentioned.
Well, you said, so those what you said where the river's expected to go into this primary channel.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a different answer for anywhere else? Or is there?
No, that's what we're anticipating at each reservoir footprint. So that's our project area. The main stem won't have too much, we don't anticipate too much earth moving there, but we'll be seeding the uplands, or the newly exposed reservoir footprints that become uplands and riparian. Yeah?
Yeah, I have a question. So, it was my impression of the liability structure that generally unknown conditions or natural hazards like fire, that those are generally the responsibility of the licensee. For example, the contractor performing the actual construction work on the dam. If there's a crazy 100-year flood event and that causes something to go wrong, they're not liable for that. KRC is liable for that. So I'm just...
So this is, the distinction there is between the civil engineer construction and the dam removal and then the restoration part.
Gotcha.
So that's the part that RES has taken on the responsibility for.
And then I guess my other question would be, for example, if the tributaries no longer connect to the main stem in the reservoirs, is that something that RES will be responsible for addressing?
Yeah, so that's what we'll be doing. Where we will be doing the most earth moving is there to reconnect the alignment.
Mm-hmm. And would you be liable for something like that as well if that winds up being more?
I believe is my understanding, yes, because that is our work area.
Yeah, and so what's I don't know, how do you guys feel about accepting that kind of liability? Do you feel like your insurance policy is going to cover you guys?
That's
a
a question for the lawyers. Yeah, no, that's way outside of my wheelhouse. But I know that there were several meetings and lots of discussions over the past 3 years. And
Okay, thank you.
yeah, we want this project to happen. And we want to be there. Yes, Tom?
Yeah, so I was on a site tour in March, and I heard some concern expressed from Bureau of Land Management and with concurrence from the Klamath tribes on OHV use in the potential reservoir areas. And it's just such a large area, and the BLM area manager said that there are a lot of issues with ORV use, and just, what's your monitoring enforcement strategy to ensure that activity is not interfering with your restoration goals?
So that's still under development. We asked the BLM, we said, we asked Kevin Heatley up in that office. We said, what do you recommend? What have you experienced? And they said, sometimes we paint American flags on things and that seems to decrease the bullets. So we're open to ideas. We're trying to come up with the best of them. And obviously it's a huge concern. Yeah. I don't have an answer for you at this point. That's some other brains working on that.
So that implies that where BLM is adjacent to the drawdown or the reservoir land, that stays with BLM. What about the private landowners that are all around the reservoirs? Whose land does that become? One question, and I have another.
I don't have a good answer for you. I know that there's the parcel B lands, the parcel A lands, and I think that's still being worked out. Or if it's, I think that's still being worked out. I don't have an answer for you at this point. That'd be a good question for KRC.
I mean, what the settlement agreement states is it goes to the states or their designees.
That's the land owned by the Pacific Corp.
Yeah.
Maybe your question was a little bit different. The private land, the ownership of private land does not change at all.
Right, but if you're reservoir side, you own an acre,
Then there will
5
be
acres,
an expanse of was Tom's answer. That's parcel A or B land, and most of it's parcel B, which will then be state-owned in the respective states. And then what happens next is the following question.
I do think California has some land back initiatives.
That's definitely one thing that's being considered.
Yeah.
I have a question, Jen, or Gwen. I don't want to put you on the spot, so feel free to say this is not your part of the project, but you've addressed the planting part of restoration. Res has also taken on a devegetation part of restoration, and that is the removal of in-channel trees that have grown artificially in the dewatered reach below Copco 1 and 2, well, below Copco 2 dam in particular. Can you enlighten us on that, or is that
No.
Is that Dave Coffins?
No. That's actually probably KRC at this point too. I know that's under discussion as well. Yeah.
So maybe just the point is that restoration can include planting plants where plants do not yet exist because they're under reservoirs, but it can also mean removing plants in dewatered reaches. We call it restoration.
We have a big devegetation program going on right now that looks different, and that's addressing some of the invasive species of concern, which are yellow star thistle, cheatgrass, Medusa head, blackberry teasel. We've got a very robust program that started last year, and it'll go for quite a while. But yeah. Yep.
So you mentioned the tribes being involved in some water quality monitoring, I think you said some seed propagation, but is there any avenue or direct hire for tribes to be involved in implementation of things beyond the massive construction effort and the long-term management of the rebed efforts or anything else that would help with the economy?
Yeah, so the tribes, the Yurok tribe particularly is involved with the collection of the native seeds. So it's a robust season that goes from probably April to October of each year right now, and that also is the invasive exotic vegetation treatment. So that's going on right now. There will be a hiring effort as well that prioritizes tribal labor for implementation. And then beyond that, I imagine they'll be involved, and then I don't know what the plan is for the states, how they'll involve tribal labor, but I've been on site visits with particular agencies that are like, is it California Natural Resources Agency that's trying to figure that out. Christina.
So Dave took us on a great tour. Was that yesterday? That was yesterday. And we saw two of the reservoirs, and I mean, it really defies the imagination to just what's it like underneath all of that water. And those of us who've been, we've been involved in many river cleanups, I'm sure, around this group, but I'm wondering, there's got to be a lot of just crap in the reservoir down below. I mean, we hear what's happening in Lake Mead. Hopefully there's no barrels with creepy things in them, but is there you mentioned something about anthropogenic
Debris.
Is that what you were talking about? I'm curious to
anything
understand
that
how the cleanup factor kind of plays a role in your restoration efforts, and secondarily, are there opportunities for nonprofit groups, tribes, volunteers, people to come and play a role in helping with just the cleanup?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll have two answers for you. One is that yes, the conditions under those reservoirs are so unknown right now that we won't take our, we negotiated with the agencies that we wouldn't take our restoration plans to 90% until those were drawn down. And then beyond that, the hot topic of what is under those footprints, we don't know, it's a KRC discussion. And I think that's a great idea if there's an opportunity to involve volunteers to move that out. I think we also have to be sensitive to the cultural resources that might be exposed, and I think that's in the cultural resources plan, which is also another KRC document. Allison?
So you talked about upland seeding, but I'm also interested in a little bit more detail about riparian revegetation.
Mhm.
Just thinking from the perspective of salmonids that are going to be migrating up for the first time in a very long time, and what those habitat conditions are going to be like. If there's plans for trying to jumpstart that riparian zone, and also like in-stream habitat complexity or side channels, outposts, things like that.
Absolutely. So yes, in the tributaries, we have engineered wood structures planned. I guess the historical documentation of the main channel says that there weren't historically engineered log jams there. So we'll focus that effort on the tributaries. And then the riparian zones, yes, we're doing willow live stakes. We've got several other riparian species that are planned for those areas to replant and really kind of foster those and facilitate those communities. In the back.
So I'm with the governor's office of business and economic development in California, and I represent a region that includes Siskiyou and Modoc counties. And you mentioned the partners that you got involved, and it sounds really great. And I know that it's been difficult to move forward partnerships in Siskiyou County where the dams are actually being removed. And so I guess my question to you is how can we help facilitate those relations and make sure that there's economic benefits in the local community?
That is a wonderful question, and I have a person to connect you with that I would love to have an offline. Dave Muir. Yeah, he would be a great person.
As of yet, you've got no very specific partners within that region?
Not that I am aware of. Yeah. We're Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you for listening.